Once you have your tent set up, there's a few do's and do nots when it comes to actually laying out your bedding inside your tent. Now, the very first thing that you want to do is get your Thermarest or your air mattress inflated. If you've got a self-inflating Thermarest of some sort, then you can open up that nozzle, let that thing inflate, maybe go off and do something else, and then come back into the tent, and hopefully that thing will be mostly inflated at that point. You put a couple extra puffs in it and you're good to go. If you've got an air mattress, then you're gonna have to start inflating that, and it's gonna take a little bit of time. So let's get started on that, and then we'll come back with the next step. So now that you've got your air mattress laid out, what I find a lot of people are gonna do is they're gonna lay out their sleeping bag rather quickly. And you wanna be careful of this. When you lay out your sleeping bag, what it can do is start to absorb moisture from the atmosphere. So when it's raining, when you're winter camping, or even on a generally nice day, your sleeping bag's actually gonna start to get quite damp if you just lay it lying out inside your tent. So you need to be very careful of this. Now, this is more of a problem when you're dealing with a down sleeping bag, but even with a synthetic bag, this can still be an issue. So what you can do, if you have a compression sack, you can loosen off the compression sack and kind of let that sleeping bag just relax a little bit in there. It's not going to be under so much tension. Or you can take your sleeping bag out of the stuff sack, and instead of just leaving it out in the open, you can actually stuff it inside of a garbage bag. Now, what I'll often do is inside my stuff sack, I'll have my sleeping bag inside of a garbage bag as well. So I'll just take it out of the stuff sack and then leave the sleeping bag on top of my air mattress in a garbage bag. There we go. So once I've got that, what I'm going to do is just leave my sleeping bag in the garbage bag. I'll leave it just on top of my air mattress like that. When I come to bed at night, that's when I'll take it out of that garbage bag, lay it out, and crawl in. So when you're backpacking and you're dealing with a particularly wet day, you're probably going to have wet rain gear. And this can be challenging to manage inside of a tent. So what I do at night is I'll get into my vestibule outside my tent. I'll try to peel off that wet rain gear out there. And then while I'm in my vestibule, I actually shove my rain gear underneath of my air mattress or my Thermarest like that. And it does a couple of things. So it's going to give me just a little bit more insulation from the ground by having that extra layer underneath of me. And throughout the night, it'll actually dry out a little bit. So when I get up in the morning, my rain layer is actually going to be a little bit drier, which is really nice. But the biggest reason why I like that is it doesn't get anything else wet, especially my sleeping bag. I really am going to work hard to keep that as dry as possible. Very important. And then there's a couple things that I do before I go to bed. And the very first thing is that I make sure that my fly is a little bit open. So I reach down here and I just kind of open up the bottom of the fly a little bit there. If my tent has a vent in the top, I'm going to undo that. I find a lot of newer tents aren't really coming with these vents to kind of save weight. So that's going to make this bottom part more crucial to open that up. And then when you zip up the tent right here, you want to just open up that screen mesh just a little bit. And depending on how cold it is, you might want to zip it up a little bit more to try to keep warm. But it's important to have some sort of ventilation, some circulation out there to try to prevent any moisture, any condensation from forming on the inside of the tent. So with those few tricks, even on the wettest trips, you can do a really good job of staying dry. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, and if you have any questions or any suggestions about future videos, just comment or send me a message. And most of all, stay safe out there. Happy trails.